Yeah, Hare Krishna. So this particular section deals with the reasoning why, how Vidura leaves, what circumstances make Vidura leave the Hastinapura. Hmm? So we'll study the verses 6th onwards. Shri Shuka Uvacha
श्रीशुकवाच
Yada tu Raja Swasutan Asadhun
यदा तु
राजा
राजा
स्वसुतान्
सुतान्
साधून्
Pushna Dharmena Vinatstha
पुष्णन्न धर्मेण विनष्टदृष्टिः
Bhraturyavistasya sutan vibandhun
भ्रातुर्निविष्टस्य सुतान् विबन्धून्
pravesha laksha bhavane dadaha.
प्रवेश्य लक्षाभवेन ददाः.
Yeah, please read.
Translation. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth, but his blindness in committing impious activities to support his dishonest sons was a greater blindness than his physical lack of eyesight. The physical lack of sight does not bar one from spiritual progress. But when one is blind spiritually, even though physically fit, that blindness is dangerously detrimental to the progressive path of human life.
So Dhritarashtra was blind by birth, but not only is blind by physically, he was also blind spiritually because of his association with his children, especially the Duryodhan, who was always extremely envious towards his stepbrothers Pandavas, who do not have a father. So at one point they decided to even set the fire to the house where they live. Yeah. Yada sabhayam kurudeva devya
यदा
यदा
सभायां
सभायां
गुरुदेव
गुरुदेव
देव्या
देव्या
keshabhimarsham sutakarma garhyam
केशाभिमर्शं
केशाभिमर्शं
सुतकर्मकर्यम्
सुतकर्मगर्ह्यं
navariyam asa nipasnusaya
नवार्यासन्नुपा अनुस्यः
swasrair harantya kuchakunkumani.
स्वाश्रयहन्त्या कुचकुमानि.
कुचकुङ्कुमानि. The king did not forbid his son Dusasana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, the wife of the godly king Yudhishthira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast.
Yeah. So Dusasana, who is the brother of Duryodhana, on the order of Duryodhana, tries to insult Draupadi by grabbing her by hand, grabbing her hair by hand in the full assembly. Even though she was helpless and crying, he would not spare her. And it appears as if, sometimes the Kauravas are extremely united, especially for when they're together to do anything, they're always together. All decisions were made in unison. On the contrast, sometimes you will find uh, in the entire Mahabharata there are many instances of um, you know kind of dharma yuddha between brothers of Pandavas. sometimes there are times when Bhima would say, Yudhishthira Maharaj, I'm going to attack you, or make you into pulp. And even sometimes Arjuna becomes very angry at Yudhishthira Maharaj, and there are very um, strong exchange of words between the brothers. But interestingly, there is no time, any discord between the brothers of Kauravas. So if there is a seminar on relationships, it appears as if the Kauravas are the best examples of being in a very cordial relation and how to maintain good relation. So how do you understand this? So the main reason why this kind of thing exists is because the Kauravas were all united for what? They're all united for uh, things which are, they have common material goals. It is much easier to be united in the arena of lust, greed, anger, envy. That's why we see all over the world there are so many people come together to make money, or build companies to make money. It's easier. Those are in a way low hanging fruits because everybody is driven by material desires. On the other hand, to come together to perform spiritual activity where the goal is very subtle, and um, sometimes we get doubts on the goal itself, and that to do it for the entire lifetime, and sometimes we get confused about the goal, like committing to a life a life of spiritual path. It's far more difficult in a way because the goal is not very perceivable, and it requires constant practice to stay on the course, constant encouragement and constant support from each other. It's a lot more difficult. So so we cannot judge a thing just by its externals. Yeah, cannot judge that, because the whole, we have to see the overall purpose. So the whole overall thing is based on a false premise. In the case of Kauravas, they're all united, but united for a wrong cause, right? So we cannot just go by the external, uh, just namesake unity between them. It's not really exemplary when the overall overwhelming goal itself is not proper, right? So here, nobody, even the Dhritarashtra did not forbid, because they're all united in trying to get the Pandavas away from the kingdom. Just they don't want Pandavas to be part of anything, even though everybody knows they are the best people. Yeah. Um, Pandavas were the rightful kings. Why? Because originally their father Pandu was the king of Hastinapur, and he was qualified in every way. He's chivalrous and uh, built with all good qualities. So naturally, he was the king, and his brother Dhritarashtra was blind from his birth. So naturally, he was not qualified. And after him, he had an untimely death, and Dhritarashtra was installed as a interim king. He was never installed as a real king because if he was originally qualified, he would have been the king. He was not qualified. That was the reason Pandu was made the king. So he's always an interim king. He's never the king. So sometimes people confuse, oh, Dhritarashtra was the king, so naturally his son should be the next kings, isn't it? Many people think like that. But actually, if he was originally qualified to be a king, he would have been given the kingmanship. He was never given, and he was temporarily installed under the guidance of Vidura and Bhishma until the next proper king comes. Yeah, I mean, you can say even Kauravas could be qualified kings, but again, guna and karma both should be aligned. So everybody knows how qualified are Pandavas, and even if you consider, okay, the sons of Dhritarashtra should be the kings, but they're not qualified by their qualities. They were very wicked from their childhood in the way they behaved with the people around. So they were never winning the hearts of the people. So in that sense also, even if you say, okay, Pandu, it should not be Pandu's sons, it should be Dhritarashtra's sons, but they were not qualified, so they were never supposed to be the kings, right? So they were trying to grab what was supposed to be Pandavas. Yeah. So now in this case, they were just trying to get rid of them. Yeah. Jute Twadharmin.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, Hare Krishna, bro. Sorry, I'm attending after a long time, but it's an interesting topic. Question is, see, I see that Dhritarashtra was made a king because after Pandu's death, as a caretaker king, but then he was blind. So, person with the blind abilities, can he be king? He cannot be, like, as per the principle. So why they still made him king instead of they making Vidur or finding someone else? Because there is an example where I think Bharat Maharaj did not choose his son's king and he got someone else, right? Dushyantu as a king, right?
Hmm.
So why that was not followed in this case, or what was the reason? Only they had to announce Dhritarashtra as a king even when he was blind.
Yeah, he was not made the king. What I'm trying to say is he was made as a caretaker until the next king comes. He was just like an interim, like sometimes when the qualified person is not there,
Hmm.
suppose sometimes there is an untimely death of a CEO of a company, until the next CEO comes, say the CFO is made the CEO temporarily, just as a so that there is somebody in charge to sign the checks or make some calls and decisions, right? So
Hmm.
he was made as a temporary king until say until next 15 years, until the next king comes, until the qualified king comes.
But that is still, like, I felt like when he's blind, so what was the reason for him to even choose as a caretaker?
Yeah,
Oh.
maybe because they wanted, the dynasty. There was some inclination to keep the, person who is from the dynasty to be the king.
Hmm.
You may ask, why not Bhishma? Bhishma said, I think he didn't want it to be the king.
Correct, correct.
He said, whoever is it is, and I will support it, right? And
Yes.
Vidura, because he was, considered, not from mother and father side,
Yeah.
that we understand, right? So he was the only person, and he was not made the king. He was only made a caretaker. And yeah, so
And Prabhuji, he was not even coronated also, right?
yes, yeah,
Dhritarashtra, yeah.
he was not officially coronated. Also, he was temporary, just like caretaker until the next person comes. And who is the next person? Ideally, it is the most qualified people, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And by qualities, who are the most qualified, irrespective of their
Yudhishthir Maharaj, yes.
tomorrow. Yeah, naturally, everybody knows that.
Got it. So there in the Bhagavatam, there is no specific reason given or Shastras that because Dhritarashtra, because of dynasty, he was being chosen, but there is no other reason, correct?
Yeah, there is no other reason given actually.
I see. Got it.
And they had the support of Vidura and Bhishma. So
I see. Got it.
neither of them wanted to be the king. So he was the.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Jute धर्मेण जितस्य साधो
Jute
अधर्मेण चित्तस्य साधु
सत्यावलम्बस्य वनं गतस्य
Satya
सत्यावलम्बस्य वनं गतस्य
न याचतो दात् समयेन दायम्
नयाचतो समयेन दायम्
Ayam
ओजुषानो अजातशत्रु
समोजसानो यजातशत्रु
Yeah, please read.
Yudhishthir, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling. But because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion.
Yeah. So first thing is they were all sent out after being defeated in the gambling match. That itself is unfair. See, it's all a friendly match originally. You don't, and for a failure in a gambling match, one would not throw away one's own brothers, right? That itself is shows the qualities of Kauravas. And because he's such a truthful person, he left without any questions to the forest for 14 years. It all appears very silly, just for a failure in a game, who would send anybody to forest for like such a long period? And that is how they are. And when he came back, naturally he's a kshatriya, right? What would kshatriya do? He cannot go work for a company, or kshatriya means in those days they would,
Yes.
yeah, they would be, they cannot do business,
Yes,
they
yes.
cannot be a farmer, they cannot be servants, they cannot be sudras. So they cannot be a brahmana also, they cannot do puja. So for their livelihood they need something. So they are just asked, give me some rightful share. They didn't even ask, okay, this is our kingdom. If you look at Duryodhana, when Duryodhana sent these Pandavas to, to the forest, you never hear him remorseful or anything like that, right? But on the other hand, after the Kurukshetra war is over, the rest of his life, Yudhishthira was in great agony. If you have read Bhagavatam, you will see he was never peaceful and happy. Even though Lord Krishna himself provides a lot of console, even though Bhishma speaks, he was always feeling kind of dejection in his heart, detachment, that he was the cause of so many people's death. Yudhishthira Maharaj was like that. So that is the character. Uh, so anyway, uh, he was overwhelmed. So Dhritarashtra, he is supposed to be a caretaker king, but he assumed, uh, you know, like he himself was a king and he wanted his sons to be the next kings.
Maharaj Yudhishthir was the rightful heir to his father's kingdom. But just to favor his own sons, headed by Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj's uncle, adopted various unfair means to cheat his nephew of their rightful share of the kingdom. At last, the Pandavas demanded only 5 villages, one for each of the 5 brothers. But that was also refused by Upsars. Usurpers. This incident led to the war of Kurukshetra. The battle of Kurukshetra, therefore, was induced by Kurus and not the Pandavas. As Kshatriya, the proper livelihood of the Pandavas was only to rule and not to accept any other occupation. A Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya will not accept employment for his livelihood under any circumstances.
Yeah. So, in fact, Lord Krishna himself went on a peace mission uh, with to the Kauravas. You know, Pandavas were never interested in the war, but Duryodhana would not even give that. Just he went on a peace mission and spoke very gently. And in fact, the whole conversation was so sweet. It will come in the next verses. Uh, but even Krishna's interference will not be accepted, by the Kauravas. So this is what, sometimes as Paramatma, sometimes people think, oh, how can, if God is there within the heart of a person, how can such an abominable action be done by a person? Isn't it? We hear this. How can there be, a person like Hitler who would kill thousands of people, innocent people?
Mm.
Uh, I mean, people like Duryodhan is a great example. Lord Krishna himself came, uh, as a peace messenger and wanted to settle the whole thing without any fight. You know what Duryodhan did? He tried to arrest him. uh,
Yes.
yeah, the whole conversation went, and some of the brothers are started listening. You know,
Yes. Yes.
they were trying to. Oh yeah, yeah. I think one of them stood. Yeah, I think what Krishna.
Duryodhana is saying is right.
Yeah, let's do it. And then
Let's do
Duryodhana
it.
got so mad. He already arranged uh, a few people to capture Krishna.
Dr. Krishna.
When he tried to capture Krishna, zoop, he just
Manifested
showed
the
universal form, and everybody got afraid and they ran away. And even after seeing universal form of Lord Krishna, you know
Mm.
what Duryodhana thought?
He's a Mayavi.
Yeah, it must be he is a magician. He never got a hint that Krishna is God. And he
Krishna.
got it at the time of death. Maybe Krishna is God. Almost, he was in a lake, about to die
Mm.
after being wounded by Bhima,
Mm.
just lying in a lake, um, and with severe pain because of being hit by Bhima on his thighs.
Yes.
So in that, he was just thinking the whole thing, what has happened. Looking at all the incidents, he felt maybe I think this Krishna may be God.
Mm.
But that was too late. Everything is already over now.
Yes.
Yeah. So we should not delay to realize Godhood of Krishna,
Mm.
Doesn't we should accept the scriptures, accept the guidance of, our gurus, and
So
move.
whatever you said, Prabhuji, that Krishna is in our heart as a Paramatma, but still there are demonic mindset people. They do demonic activities, and there are people in the goodness or saintly people or devotees. They do in the um, karma as per their desire or thinking. Question is, if because a soul can only do desire, right? But it will be only sanctioned by Paramatma and will be executed by the three modes.
Yeah.
Now, if the demonic mindset people think something bad, and if then how does that work? Like when and why Krishna will sanction and why three modes will still execute those kind of bad actions? So I was just thinking on that how is this process works?
Yeah, because Krishna does not interfere in the free will.
Hmm.
Let things happen the way, the desires are manifest in the heart of the conditioned soul.
Hmm.
Only guide, but he will not enforce what is the right thing to do.
Okay, so they will still facilitate if he wants to do something bad.
Yes, he will.
Okay.
And accordingly, they will get punishment and learn their lessons. And in the process, there is going to be some damage. Yes.
Damages. Right, right, right.
but he would not stop because it's all a play. And
Right.
for us, we may think death is a big thing, but
Yes.
in the overall scheme of things, the Jiva has taken so many births and so many lifetimes. It's not a
Yes.
no. It's just death is just a change of body. So
Yes. Yes.
some lessons have to be learned hard.
Yes. 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 One more question, Prabhu, that this five villages, I know it's for five villages for five brothers as an example, but are there any significance mentions apart from five brothers, one village per brother, or is there a like why Krishna has to go down that for just a five village instead of a kingdom itself?
Yeah. See, uh, he just wanted them to lead a very dharmic life as a kshatriya. That's all he cared. He didn't really. So it shows that Pandavas are not really asking they're
Yeah.
not
Great.
competing to be the kings of the world.
Yes.
But you know why Duryodhana would not even give five villages? It appears very foolish on part of Duryodhana. He was ready to give half the kingdom to Karna. But
Yeah.
why would such a person not give even five villages to Pandavas?
Envy.
Envy, but what is his? There is some problem with Duryodhana here. So it's called insecurity.
Oh, insecurity. Okay.
So
Okay.
he knows if I give these five villages to Pandavas, these Pandavas are so virtuous. My rest of the kingdom, they are just waiting for the news what villages these Pandavas get. As soon as they were declared village A to be Duryodhana, Yudhishthir Maharaj, B to be Bhima, C to be Arjuna's, D and E to be Nakula and Sahadev's. He knows very well the whole kingdom will go back to those villages. They are the people are just waiting. They will all go back to those villages to lead a very happy and peaceful dharmic life because they know who they are. And
Right.
Duryodhana was so afraid that if I give them, they will just expand from there. I gave Khandava Prasad, they made such a beautiful Indraprastha out of it. You know,
Oh, yes, Prabhu.
wherever they are, they will just thrive.
Yes, they will thrive wherever they go, right?
Wherever they are, they would thrive.
Because Krishna is there with them.
Krishna is there with them, and nothing will stop them. And because of that fear, Duryodhana would not entertain them anywhere in any place. They wouldn't even want to give small five villages. You see the power of envy.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Power of envy, insecurity, so many, like all related now.
Yeah, and insecurity. Yeah, it's
Mm.
because the jiva want to control.
Mm.
Last thing they will leave out of envy. They want to be the dominator.
Dominator, right? Controller.
He wouldn't give anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
Got it.
यदा च पार्था प्रहिता सभायां
यदा च पार्था सभायाम्
जगद्गुरुर्यानि जगाद कृष्ण
जगद्गुरुर्यानि जगत् कृष्ण
जगात्कृष्णः
तानि पुंसाम् अमृतायनानि
न
तानि पुंसाम् अमृते अनन्यानि
राजोरुमेने क्षतपुण्यलेशा
राजोरमेणे क्षतपुण्यलेशा
Yeah, please read.
Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some like Bhishma as pure nectar, it was not so for the others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously.
So the words of Lord Krishna in that assembly as a peace messenger were heard by everybody, but according to their own nature, they were taking it differently. A person like Bhishma, for him, it was like just nectar, hearing directly from Lord Krishna, and it appeared to be the best way to resolve this conflict by giving the partial kingdom to Pandavas. But the same words were not at all palatable to people like Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, the king and the son. Why? It is because of lack of any good credits, past karma. So it is important for us as practitioners of devotion service, that we continue to be very serious in our practice. If we slacken, even slightly, the same good instructions that have inspired us, the instructions of gurus and the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, those will appear, sometimes appear very, negatively. Why should I do? Sometimes people are, it's not that, for example, sometimes I get initiated and I'm good, I'm done. It's like driving, driving on the road, Krishna consciousness or, spiritual life. You cannot be slackened at any time. You cannot, you know, it's not like, okay, the car is on autopilot and I can just rest. You will hear, all the time accidents on national highways. So we cannot, so, um, so we have to be careful in our practice of Krishna consciousness. It's, it's because material world is such that every day these negative qualities keep on accumulating. It's like food that is prepared and left out in the material world. What happens? It gets spoiled by evening. Anything, material world always keeps you down, pulls down. So unless you clean your mind on a daily basis, there is no way to stop it being good. There is no way it will stay in pristine quality. So that is why we have to take, every day we have to chant. It's like shaving your beard, right? You cannot say, I shaved 2 weeks back and I'm good today, right? Every day or every other day or whatever is your schedule, you need to clean it yourself. Otherwise, if you leave it that way, within 2 weeks, you will look like a Baba, right? The reason is, it's just the way that, things manifest in the middle world. It just overwhelms us. So, middle world means continuous um, contamination. That is the nature of the middle world.
Yes, true. There is a example of Nahush Maharaj. He went to the Indralok
Mm,
because Indra was been cursed to take care of Indralok, and then later on he relaxed and he did not follow, and he wanted to marry
mm,
Indra's wife, and then later on he got cursed, become a serpent by rishis, and then later on he got recovered by the Yudhishthir Maharaj. That was his curse fall back. But then he reached to the state where he could achieve the Indra sun easily, and
mm.
then suddenly he fall back.
Yeah,
So as that goes by your example of what you are saying, that if we are not careful
yeah. So
on our
that's why we have to do sadhana very sincerely every single day, as if your life and death depends on that. Otherwise, middle world keeps us dragging down. So sometimes good instructions appear very harsh to us. You know, uh, you know. Sometimes within the same day, in the morning you hear Bhagavatam, everything appeared nectar, and something happened in the afternoon. By evening, if somebody says anything, you will be so angry and upset, frustrated. You don't want to hear anything good. The same things will appear very harsh to you. The same Guru's instructions appear very harsh to you. It's because, like it is mentioned here, when pious credits go away from our heart, right? Nothing, no good instructions will hold any value for us. It doesn't appear good at all. We see all the time, people outside, they may appear externally very pious, but when you speak about God, suddenly they dislike you like anything. They hate you because they don't have really, Sukruti is not there in their heart. So what can be done? That's why in those cases we just please them by giving something physical like prasadam, and improve their pious credits. And maybe at some point in future, after taking sufficient prasadam, they will get some sukruti, and they will further grow. We have seen people who come to temple just to take prasadam for years and years, and after many years they will turn around, little bit. It's a very slow process for them. But in even the other side is, even genuine devotees, if we do not take good care of our sadhana and humble attitude, we can be overwhelmed by the anarthas, unwanted desires and unwanted things in our life, and can spoil our life. All the credits that all the spiritual growth will be lost if we are not careful. So we have to be extremely careful. Yeah, you want to read, Prabhu?
Mataji was reading, I think, Preeti Mataji.
What is it?
Sure, Prabhuji. Lord Krishna, who is the spiritual master of the entire universe, accepted the duty of a messenger and deputed by Arjuna went to the assembly of King Dhritarashtra on a peace mission. Krishna is everyone's Lord, yet because he was the transcendental friend of Arjuna, he gladly accepted the role of messenger. Exactly like an ordinary friend. That is the beauty of the Lord's behavior with his pure devotees. He reached the assembly and spoke about peace, and the message was relished by Bhishma and other great leaders because it was spoken by the Lord himself. But due to the exhaustion of the pious results of their past deeds, Duryodhana or his father, Dhritarashtra, did not take the message very seriously. That is the way of persons who have no credit of pious deeds. By past pious deeds, one may become the king of a country, but because the results of the pious acts of Duryodhana and company were dwindling, it became evident from their actions that they were sure to lose the kingdom to Pandavas.
Yeah. So direct advice by Lord himself was not accepted. Who can save them? Huh? Yada pahuto bhavanam pravishto
Yada
Yada pauto bhavanam pravishto
mantraya prishta kila purvajena
mantraya prishta kila
Kila
purvajana
Vachena
ataha tanmantra disham variyam
atāratan mantra dasham
matrino vaidurikam vadanti.
yanti
Is it?
When Vidra was invited by his elder brother for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known and instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state.
So after Krishna left, after giving the advice, the whole thing happened, and Krishna left. Vidura was consulted by Dhritarashtra himself. Always consulted him, but he again called Vidura and asked him, what should we do? So he gives very straightforward instructions to Dhritarashtra, which we'll read in the next verse. Right? Yeah, Vidura is actually what? He was Dharmaraj himself.
Dharma.
Yeah, Dharmaraj. Out of curse he came to middle world for a short period, and Dharmaraj is actually Mahajan. So he knows what is the right thing. And he's a pure devotee in this life as Vidura also. So let's read what he says. Ajatashatro pratiyachadayam
Ajatashatru Pratiyachidayam
Dikshato durvishaham tavaga
Dikshato Durvishaham Tadavaga
Sahanujo yatra vrikodarahi
Sahanujo Yatra Vrikodarahi
Ushayat pamalam abhishe
Rasam Rushaya
Rasaya
Twamalam
Twamalam Vibhishe.
Translation.
So this is Vidura said.
Vidura said, "You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him."
So all the good advice is over. Now Vidura being, genuinely seeking the welfare of dynasty, he was telling now, you caused so much suffering to these Pandavas from the very beginning. You should just give legitimate share to Yudhishthira. Nobody is asking take away everything. They're not like, okay, now after giving kingdom, you don't have anything. Give them the share. They're ready to share. And he also Ajatasatru, he is qualified. He's not like, okay, these guys are not qualified, so don't give them. Huh? So they're far more qualified. And they're very tolerant and forbearing, waiting for the right thing to be done by the king. Right? Yeah. So, and in that, among those brothers is Bhima. If you're not going to give legitimately, Bhima is not going to leave you. You're all afraid of him, afraid of his strength. So better to not get into all these fights. Just give the kingdom to them, partly at least. Pardam Sudevo Bhagavan Mukundo
Pardhan Sudevo Bhagavan Mukundo
Grihitavan Sakshiti Deva Deva
Great.
Gritva Sakshiti Deva Deva
Aste Swapuryam Yadudeva Devo
Aste
Swapniryam Yadudeva Devo
Vinirjate Shanudeva Deva
Vinirjite Yadudeva Deva.
It's a very poetic verse here. Deva Deva is repeated in every line almost. Yeah. So now he's reminding about, okay, forget about basic truth. Now look at the people on the other side. Yeah. Read this verse.
Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pruta as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings and princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their Lord.
So this Lord Krishna, he's Lord himself. And now you are fighting with a person who is acting as the friend of your enemy. So basically, you are making enemies with the Lord, right? So Lord Krishna accepted sons of Pritha or the Pandavas as their friend and family. So basically, you are basically fighting against Vishnu. That's what he's saying. He is present in his home with all his family members, you know, and he is coming and advising, and you're not realizing what you are doing, you know. So this is now he will tell the real problem here. Yeah. And yeah. स एष दोषा पुरुषद्विदास्ते
Dosha Purusha Vidaste
गृहान् प्रविष्टो यमपत्यमत्या
Grihan
Grihan Pravisto Yam Satyamatya
कृष्णाशि कृष्णाद् विमुखो गतश्रेयस्
Krishna Shri Krishna Vimukho Gatashri
यजा स्वसाय असैवं कुलकौशलाय
Tajas
Saivam Kula
Simon
Kaushlamaya
Kulakshalaya.
Yeah, please read.
You are maintaining offense personified Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all the auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family.
Because Vidura uh, is is here as an advisor. As an advisor, a true advisor must guide without without any fear. So in this case, he is telling the truth. Oh, you are actually envious of Lord Krishna, who is the personified God himself, Krishna, right? And your main problem is you have a family member, Duryodhana, uh, who is full of bad qualities. You're thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna. Okay? And therefore, you're full of negative qualities. You're devoid of all good qualities. So the way you can relieve yourself, is to get rid of your son. You are infallible as your infallible son. So your attachment to your son is making you do all these bad things, all wrong decisions. It is mentioned that there are 4 types of sons that one may have. The first kind is, so in this case, it is, it is mentioned as dosha purushadvit. Yeah. So one who is envious of a lot. But in, in the, especially in Chanakya Nidhi, it is mentioned there are 4 types of sons. The first son is a son who was an enemy in your previous life. So he will come and ultimately he is going to be the cause of destruction of your family. We have seen some, many cases where the sons have basically destroyed the family. And then the second category is I think the second category was those who are very what is it called? They don't care anything, very detached. So that is second category. Third category is they're only, self-caring and they don't care about the parents. So actually 3 categories are bad. And the fourth is Savak Putra, one who actually is born to serve the parents and, to maintain the religion. So in this way, you can see, there is only a chance for 25% of to be children to be really good. Very very few people turn out to be really good children. Yeah. So in this case, for Dhritarashtra, this particular son is actually an enemy in the previous life, as per Vidura's instruction here. Yeah, actually, let's read this. I think Prabhupada will speak about it.
A good son is called apatya, one who does not allow his father to fall down. The son can protect the father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This system is still prevalent in India. After the death of his father, a son goes to offer sacrifices at the lotus feet of Vishnu at Gaya, and thus delivers the father's soul if the father is fallen. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, how in such an inimical mood can he offer sacrifice onto Lord Vishnu's lotus feet? Lord Krishna is directly the personality of Godhead Vishnu, and Duryodhana was inimical to him. He would therefore be unable to protect his father Dhritarashtra after his death.
Yeah. So one is supposed to be a devotee and offer oblations, for the forefathers, so that the forefathers will be relieved. But in this case, Duryodhan is actually inimical to Lord Vishnu, in the form of as Lord Krishna here, right? So how would he deliver? So he would never deliver his father. So it is better to not maintain such a son, right? So that is the straightforward advice from Vidura. So here is an instruction of Chanakyaniti from Chanakyaniti. So it says, according to moral instructions of Chanakya Pandita, what is the use of a son who is neither a learned man nor a devotee of the Lord? If a son is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is just like a blind eye, a source of trouble. Right? So it's also, as parents, is our responsibility to cultivate good qualities in the children by good efforts from both the parents as well as the society around. It's important, right? So Duryodhana was exactly like blind, troubling eyes. He would be a source of great trouble to the family of Dhritarashtra, as foreseen by Vidura. Right? The entire dynasty, entire family of Dhritarashtra was destroyed. All the brothers are destroyed. They lost everything because of Duryodhana. Right? So even at this time, if Vidura's advice was listened to by Dhritarashtra, he would have been saved. So Krishna directly came. He sent pure devotees to advise. So much counsel was available. Unfortunately, with all of that also, uh, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra could not be changed.
Two Mahajans were there, right? Bhishma Pitama was also there.
Mahajans are there in the assembly. You can't ask for anything better. So you can see how formidable the conditioned soul is. It's very, if it is set on its mind in a way, it won't change. You can
So
see
is the association also doesn't help here, or he never took association, or how to
association
interpret?
would help only when you are open-minded. If
If you're ready to accept.
yeah, ready to accept, they are not ready. So what can be done? Should be some open-mindedness. You see, the Duryodhana. The problem is he is uh, very aggressive and basically full of envy from the childhood. It's so much of envy that he's like personified Kali. Kali Yuga.
Got it.
So
Yes.
yeah, it's
He
very
came.
difficult.
He came as a destructor,
Yeah,
basically. Family.
yeah, family destroyer.
But Prabhuji, even Dhritarashtra also sole responsible, right? And they're just letting the sons do whatever they want, kind of. He was promoting their wrong actions also.
Yeah, he was promoting wrong actions. He was getting all these good advice. Even now, he could have listened.
Yeah.
He didn't listen. He was. So sometimes we see some parents blindly, accept whatever the child asks without, any, consultation or any guidance. And they both lead, both of them go to destined hell. That's what is happening here. Yeah. Finally, by the way, finally, he will listen to Vidura's advice, and he will he will renounce everything. And after, after all the war is over, all the, second time he comes and gives an advice only for the sake of, we have already read this in the end of second canto, only for the sake of delivering the Dhritarashtra, because Vidura is not a person to feel, oh, his son Duryodhana insulted me, so I'll not come back and advise. No, he always took the responsibility of advising Dhritarashtra, and he would give the good counsel. He said, "What are you still here for? Go live for a forest and meditate on the Lord and go back to God." He will advise him like that, and he will at the time, the final instruction he will listen. Then he will leave the whole kingdom and go back, to the forest to meditate. Yeah, 8 o'clock. So we'll continue next week. It's a very interesting discussions today, right?
Yes, bro.
Yeah. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Mhm.